Before we had AT&T Business Wireless coverage, our delivery GPS wasn't the most reliable. Once our driver had to do a 14-point turn to get back on route. A 14-point turn! An influencer even live-streamed the whole thing. Not good for business. Now with AT&T Business Wireless, routes are updating on the fly and deliveries are on time. And the influencer did get us 53 new followers, though.
AT&T Business Wireless. Connecting changes everything.
Support for this podcast comes from Progressive, America's #1 boat insurer. We've all made mistakes on the water, but there's one mistake you shouldn't make: being uninsured. With Progressive Boat Insurance, you can choose coverage for most mistakes you or other boaters could make, helping you float carefree all season long. Quote today: Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. #1 rating based on 2024 filings with state departments of insurance.
This series is sponsored by Books at One, a social enterprise dedicated to transforming bookshops into community hubs that promote literacy nationwide. Welcome to Aran Island This, a podcast series where we talk to Irish people from different walks of life as they reflect on their own journeys. Join me, Russell McDermott, as we explore the many aspects of Irishness and what it means to each of our guests through life's ups and downs. Gavin Friday, welcome to Aran Island This.
Thank you so much, Rossa.
Now, the first trick question is, have you been to the Aran Islands?
I have a few times.
Have you? Wow.
Yeah. In the late 80s, briefly. But the most time I ever spent in the Aran Islands was in the early 90s. I was working on an album called Adam and Eve. I think it came out in 1992. So in about 1991, I was not going through writer's block, but wanting some inspiration that was different. And I decided to go off to the Aran Islands, and I got the aeroplane over, which is something I'll never forget. Usually you think it's going to be like 15 minutes, but it's like there's Inishmore, Inishbioga, and there's, what's the big island? Inishman. I was staying in Inishman, so it's like it goes to one, the smallest, and then comes back halfway, then goes again. Yeah. So it was like over an hour. You'd be in Paris by the time you get from Galway to Aran. But what I found very strange was when I had a little bag, they said, get up on the scale yourself with the bag.
With your bag.
And I was going, okay, this is different. So I got up on the scale. And then when I got in, it literally, I noticed there's a few older gentlemen, and they were knocking back the whiskies. And I was going, sure, it's only 10 in the morning. What are they hitting whiskies for? So it's really, it was bad weather. Yeah. So they were knocking back the whiskies.
To get ready.
But when I sat down on the seat, next minute, this guy comes up and says, here, lift your feet up. And in came a crate of milk. And then, here, lift your back, move back. And a load of newspapers, and they were bringing all this stuff over from the island. So I was like cramped up on this journey. And as I said, it went on. There was like 3 journeys to each island. And then when I got there, it was absolutely dreadful weather. Right. And I rented out this little cottage of a house. And really, I saw very few people. But I wrote lyrics. But one image that really attracted me was the barrenness and the beauty of the barrenness. And that sort of, the next step is America. Yeah. And, I find even the Burren quite beautiful. So, but one long, big memory in my head is donkeys. And I remember I'd go for walks and it was always raining and it was freezing. And I couldn't get warm even in the house properly. But I saw these donkeys, and they'd be going out and dragging up seaweed and leaving it at the other end of the beach. And I was going, what is that about? And then, seemingly, it's like they eat it when it dries out. So it's like this eco-friendly, and I go, wow, the world is a lot more interesting than the contemporariness we think. Yeah.
No, I've been there a few times with good weather. I'd be afraid to go back when it's cold and windy. Yeah. I get rusty.
But I did it inspire? I mean, there's a song on the album If you check it out on Spotify, it's called Wind and Rain. So that definitely came in there. So it did inspire that song. And it has a Celtic feeling, actually. There's sort of a Sean-nós air to the melody.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I haven't really been there in many, many, many years. I can't remember.
It's probably timeless. Probably the exact same, the same wind, the same rain, depending on the time of year.
Well, it's probably a little bit more contemporary.
But maybe, yeah, more touristic, probably, I call it. How do you describe yourself, Gavin? And if met you in an elevator, what do you do? Who are you? Not who are you, but who are you? A composer, writer, musician?
I'm a musician. I'm a composer. I'm a writer. I don't like over
defining yourself.
Yeah, it's not that I'm shy, but I tend to like humility, and I don't shoot my shot too much unless you cross me. I mean, I've dabbled in an awful lot of things. Acting, writing, composing, even within theatre and movies as well, and soundtrack. I tend to go, I think as I got older, I started music. I didn't even know I was going to be a musician until punk rock happened. And punk rock sort of gave everybody that was into it the license to go out and try. Like, punk's philosophy was DIY, do it yourself. I thought bands like the Beatles or David Bowie or whoever you'd look up to when you were a kid were in some sort of university of scholarship, of genius. And punk rock sort of broke it down to a basic, like, well, if you've something to say it. If you don't know how to play the guitar, scream it. And I sort of did with the Virgin Prunes. And then that evolved. We started learning how to properly write and understand music. And when the Virgin Prunes ended, the Virgin Prunes were quite a complicated band in that I don't think the country's ever seen the likes of them. And I don't think anything has ever come since them. I was very much the bastard son of David Bowie and punk, but I was very influenced by, I think one of the great things about David Bowie is he was like a diviner. He would talk about poets and writers, and not your typical Irish thing. He'd talk about sort of Allen Ginsberg or William Burroughs, or he'd talk about German expressionism and avant-garde art and, you know, stuff that would seem very sort of mind-blowingly odd, but it sort of incited me to read about things. So it almost became like music in them days. It was almost like going to college or you know, you learnt an awful lot. I remember reading...
How old were you then, Gavin? 15, 16?
When I got into Bowie around 12.
12 down, yeah.
And I remember...
And he read, I didn't understand him, but obviously read it. So I knew, I liked the music, didn't know what he was trying to say about himself when there was red hair and Ziggy Stardust. I got very confused about... I was trying to do my own issues, you know, growing up. But that obviously made an impact. You the music reached out to you then.
It really did.
Yeah.
It felt, you know, the dull suburban grey of Northside Dublin in the early 70s, which was a miserable old place. Ireland...
I was in Bayside. I wasn't too more excited.
But Ireland, it was in the strangulation of the Catholic Church and a government that had no money and was all over the shop.
Yeah.
We actually think our government is messed up, and there's a lot of things wrong with the government and a lot of things wrong today. But Jesus, it's nothing compared to
then
how dismal it was. There was no money.
Yeah.
There was massive unemployment. Women were treated like shit.
Yeah.
The Catholic Church basically were in government.
Yeah.
So
they ran the show.
They did. And, you know, the government, Eamon de Valera, gave them the keys. You know, I really believe that.
Yeah.
And I mean, I don't want to beat old Ireland up because there's certain things about it I miss. A sort of a purity about it. In some ways, not the repressive side. Yeah. I think we're all being swamped. Well, the whole world's being swamped by this thing called a telephone.
Sadly.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to go off tangent, but Bowie gave me this shining light, and I just said, I'm going to start reading about other things. So I became very, very enamored by non-Irish things, believe it or not. Brecht and Kurt Weill and Jacques Brel, but also Irish things in a different way. I remember one of the first books I fully read was, I wasn't a big reader as a kid, but I was around 12. My grandfather was a librarian and with no money, but
you get books.
The importance of being earnest was on the Intercert, and we had to read it. So he gave me the complete works of Oscar Wilde, and I still have the same copy. And Oscar Wilde became a big touchstone in a weird way. I was reading The Portrait of Dorian Gray, which is about a man that lives forever, a Faustian selling a soul to the devil.
Up in the attic,
Yeah, but Ziggy Stardust is almost the same thing. It's so, you find it even when you look at like great fairy tales or anything like that, they're all sort of the same story. They're just as Celtic versions or Russian versions or American versions. So,
but you did like English at school, or had a good teacher, wasn't it?
I did, yeah.
And that obviously influenced you.
I went to Christian Brothers reluctantly. My father sent my other brothers. I was the eldest of four young Irish boys, and we were all given very Irish names. My real name is Fionnán, Fiona for the N, which is, go down well in the...
Yeah.
Some people say Fionnán. But in Leinster Irish, we say Fionnán. Reward, poetry, Crohur.
Gee, I thought Ross and McDermott was bad enough.
Yeah, no, and, you'd walk in and the proclamation, the 1916 Rising was in the hall, along with a picture of the Pope that was the Pope when my mum and dad got married. And it was like very much a Republican, a Fianna Fáiler, a Free Stater, but very old school Irish, and had it tough. His dad died when he was quite young. And there's a lot of, I had a very difficult relationship with my father, but I understand much more that those men of that era really had a hard time, because like Ireland coming out of getting its independence, and then World War II happened, and they just had a hard time. They were never shown love, and they didn't know what love was, and they didn't know how to
express it
or show it, and the church was even enhancing that even more so. It's a time when corporal punishment was rampant, and there was a fear. I always had this thing.
The country was run on fear, wasn't it? Really, in a way,
it was. I used to hate. I remember my mother and father. If a doctor or a politician or a priest knocked on the door, it was like, oh, it's the priest, it's Father so and so, and I'd say, he's an old bollocks. I can't stand him. He hits people. I've seen him hit people in school. Oh no, it's a father. So there's this irreverence to these. I had this irreverence to anything that was law or Catholic, and I just drove my father crazy because I wanted to dress like David Bowie, and then when punk happened, and 15, 16-year-old boys, testosterone kicks in and they do what they want to do.
But when you read about you, Gavin, people say you were shy or reticent.
I was very shy.
But that doesn't come across what I call, it's a bravery. The things you did to express yourself, the clothes, the dress, shyness, I was shy. But I wouldn't have had that kind of courage or belief or even a self-awareness to do what I wanted to do. I'd be scared, stiff that people would batter me up on the road or something. Yeah, which you suffered as well, I know.
I did. Well, I was bashed up and bullied a lot. It's...
But you still wanted to express yourself.
Well, I think what happened was I just knew it was inevitable. I was being beaten up since I says, here we go.
Yeah.
And then when I found something I was identifying with, which was music, and the clothes in the 70s were quite dramatic. People were dyeing their hair, wearing earrings, and then punk was even more dramatic. And I says, I'm going to get my ears pierced. I'm going to start wearing. My mother was a dressmaker by trade. I mean, she left school at 11. Oh. It's that type of. But that's how she made money. She'd make communion clothes for half of the road, or wedding dresses for all her sisters. But she'd make, when punk happened, all my flared trousers were taken straight into drain pipes. But what I realized in school was you got to stand up for yourself. And when I started wearing the earrings, I remember going, actually, it's making them more afraid of me. So the clothes and the Virgin Prunes dresses became almost like a shield, if that makes sense. Yeah. Now, I still got the head beaten out of me. Yeah. And I also got to know people. I came from a road in Northside Dublin called Cedarwood Road. And it's quite infamous now because it's where Bono grew up. I grew up, Googie. And I lived in the cul-de-sac, which is the very end of the road. I used to think cul-de-sac was very exotic. But it
was some French word?
Bottom of the bag, which is not exactly. But that's where, seemingly the cul-de-sac was where the Catholics lived. And most of the other part of Cedarwood was a lot of Protestant. And I started befriending them, or they befriended me more so. And I was shy. I wouldn't, that shy in the way that 12, 13, I wouldn't talk to people. I didn't like football. I just had my music. I kept to myself.
You go red if somebody spoke to you, probably.
Correct. It was Bono and Googie started speaking to me, usually when you're walking down the road and you'd have your albums going up to another school.
Showing
off more than, there's no record players in school. But you'd bring them up to your mate's house or whatever afterwards. And they were intrigued by me because I had long hair and earrings and dressed differently.
And were you listening to that music on the radio or the influences?
I had a record player.
All right.
But I had to go out, and the radio. Radio Luxembourg, which is very infamous, a pirate ship out there. And then John Peel in the mid-70s on BBC, and Top of the Pops and the old Grey Whistle Test. Irish radio really didn't happen till, around Dave Fanning, and it was late 70s.
Yeah, a bit of Pat Kenny, late night music.
Very, very subtle. B.P. Fallon in it. But it was all very pop or country.
Well, they were obliged to play chart music.
Yes, yeah. But the thing was, I realized they wanted to get to know me, give us a lot of your albums. And what was so strange was I was such an obsessive. I had to go out, and my dad says, well, if you want to buy music, you go and get it. That's I'm not bringing that into the house, or I'm buying you a record player. So I became very driven and self-sufficient, very young. So I said, I'll get a part-time job, which I did when I was around 12, which was working in a turf accountant. Sounds very exotic, but it's a bookie's office. My auntie Nan, my father's older sister, worked there, and I started marking up the cards, and that went into me working in the betting shop, and I did that every Saturday, every bank holiday, all the summer. Anytime there was breaks, I worked and I worked and I worked, and I collected. To collect records, to buy clothes. I had to give money over, half over to the mom and dad. And so much so that I could finance myself as a 15, 16-year-old to go over and see Bowie on my own. I didn't tell my parents.
Where are you going?
I was going to say, I'm going to stay with my friends up and Tommy up for the weekend. But his dad worked on B&I at the time. So we had free tickets to go there. And I got a boat and train, and I slept in Victoria train station.
Yeah, because you get in at 5 a.m, don't you? 6 a.m.
You do, and you put it left luggage. But all of that changed when, in the 80s, when I used to go over there to see punk bands and sleep in Victoria. But when the IRA bombing campaign, they stopped all.
No left luggage,
no left luggage, no sleeping on sleeping bags, but it was quite risque. Like a 16-year-old going to London on his own.
But you're very focused, though, weren't you?
Yes, yeah.
You're very determined. You kind of knew what you wanted to do.
Well, it wasn't that I didn't know what I wanted to do. I knew that this was giving me something.
But when you wanted to see these people, you'd go get money lined up and get there.
Yes, and I also think I remember Protestant mentality being a big influence on me with that thinking. So I remember my dad was very raunchant, old school Catholic. And in them days, especially the 70s and the 80s, you would hear the wrath of Ian Paisley on the radio. And I sort of go, what's he so angry at?
Yeah.
And like rage. Yeah. And a little kid going, what? I mean, he's a Protestant. He can't stand the Catholics.
Yeah.
And don't you be hanging out with those
people up the road.
Or prods, he used to say. And they befriended me. And what I found was the word no was always coming from the Protestant mouth. No surrender. No to a united Ireland. But when I started hanging out with Protestants, it was like, yeah, you can do that. Yeah, you can form a band. Sure, I know a guitarist, Edge's brother Dick. He'd play with you. Who joined the Virgin Prunes. Yeah. So there was like, I went, wow, it's actually, there's not this intensity.
Yeah.
And not saying that like everything Catholic is wrong and everything Protestant's right, but I just suddenly, it was a window. And these people are still my friends.
Yeah.
I still see, you can still see the nuances within Protestant and Catholic.
Yeah, they see things differently, say things different. We're very wrapped up in our own self-importance.
Very much, and it's an older thing because like I'm 66 now, so most people would say, what the hell are they talking about? It's seriously, it's such a different world.
Yeah.
But music gave me great confidence, but not only just confidence, it gave me an outlet for rage.
And that's what it was, rage, was it?
It was rage. Yeah. I was hurt. I was angry. I was fed up with being beaten up, but I was angry at being told what to do all the time. Even like your opportunities of work where you can't go to university. There was no free third level education then. So there was no option.
That was never on the cards.
We were just a working class family. So it was never on the cards. So on the cards was priesthood, civil servant, bank.
Yeah.
And they were seen as these diamond jobs. And I was like, I don't want to do any of that. And I had a tough time in school, but I had a good education. I have to say, my Irish teacher and my English teacher and my art teacher. My art teacher was very special. I says, what's imaginative composition? He says, it's anything you want.
Yeah.
And he says, so draw anything you want. So there was sort of some liberalism there. Usually they weren't priests. Yeah. They were laymen. They weren't just teachers.
Yeah. And you still paint and draw now?
I do.
Yeah.
I don't, I'm a little, I haven't done an actual exhibition in many, many, many years, but I paint as for gifts. If there's a big, a 50th or a 60th or a wedding or something, and sometimes some of the people I know are so successful, they have everything. To do a painting is quite a nice thing. And I paint for myself. And I still, even though I have computers and I'm quite literate with them, I write everything. I write longhand and still do.
Yeah.
Even if I'm at a Zoom meeting, I have the longhand pen and I doodle and paint while I'm on a boring Zoom that's going on for 40 minutes or something. So I keep everything. I have notebooks going back to, they were like these little diaries you'd buy in Eason's.
Yeah.
And I wasn't Dear Diary, but it was like meet at McGonagall's, see the Buzzcocks. Yeah. So I have like all this time.
And you have a good memory as well?
I have a great memory.
Okay.
I'm like, there's people writing books now and says, that didn't happen.
Yeah.
And I go,
no, Gavin, that's...
And then I can go back to the diary I have. And it's not a diary, it's more you know, I didn't write Dear Diary.
Yeah.
Today, my dad was a bollocks. I didn't do that.
Yeah. But just things that happen
Things
on your
and
mind.
dates. Yeah. And I mean, the songs became diaries too, in another way, expressions.
When did you see Bowie for the first time?
1976. It was, I think, the Tin White Duke, the Station to Station tour in Earl's Court.
The old Earl's Court.
And I went, I remember going there, as I said, like boat and train and sleeping in Victoria. And I still had long hair. Yeah. And I had a black tank top and a white shirt and Oxford bags that were black and high shoes, black shoes, platforms. And I thought I was the bee's knees. Yeah. And then I was standing in a queue and there's all these London people and they were absolutely exquisite looking young men and women. Yeah. And I went, I look like a fucking idiot. Like all this exquisite sort of, you know, Ball on the King's Road or in Chelsea. And it's also the first time I remember turning around in the queue and looking at a pub. And outside the pub was the first time I saw punks who looked like that sort of spiky hair like Ziggy Stardust, except it was post-apocalypse. They were all like torn and ripped. Yeah. And I read music papers like Bibles, like The Enemy, The Sounds, Melody Maker, everything. Yeah. And I remember seeing a new movement starting, Sex Pistols, Clash, called punk. And I was saying, this is the future. And I think it was late 76. The summer 76, I did my leaving quite young. Wow. Because I went to
16, were you 17?
16 and a half, yeah. Yeah. My ma sent me to school at 3, which is an odd one. But I failed the leaving, but I got honours in art, English, history, and Irish, believe it or not, but failed everything else.
Did you have to repeat then?
I didn't want to.
Oh, so you just left.
I remember walking into business organisation and just putting a big X across the page. And you had to be there for half an hour. And then and the brothers were going, you little bollock. They were like wanting to kill you, you know? Yeah. But no, geography, science, maths, oh my God, I hated it. It was like the logical things.
And your brothers have the same influences you had in their life or not? They're very different to you?
Very different.
Yeah.
I mean,
I'm the oldest in my family of 4. So when you're first, things are different when the other brothers come along anyway.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, my brothers were Rebord, who calls himself Robbie or Robert. He's a lovely man. I mean, one great thing, I mean, with the passing of parents, both my ma and dad are dead. My dad's dead a good while. My ma's died just before lockdown, just before the pandemic. And she had Alzheimer's, which is horrible, for 6 years. But it really brought the family back. Yeah. And it was a nice thing. And I'm not long back from playing Amsterdam, and my 2 brothers and their mates came over to see me, and it was just really nice. Yeah. But Rebord would have been big football and Gahead. Padraig was very studious, and Connor was a lunatic. But none of them. I mean, I remember at the age of 6 being sent to the Scouts with Rebord, and I hated it. And we were told after the first month that we had to have our toggle and our berry, or else we'd be expelled. And I was going, oh, jeez, I don't want it. Then my mother got us a toggle and a berry. And they said, oh, see, the Hamby boys have their toggle and berries. Well, if you ever turn up with that, not without that, you're gone. And I went home that evening.
And threw it away.
I started cutting it up. And my mother walked in and said, you don't ever have to go there again. Okay. But my father went ballistic. Okay. So, you know,
Your mother understood you felt, do you?
I think my mother adored me. Yeah. And I was the eldest.
The first, yeah.
The first. And my dad was absent a lot. So I think, sadly, it was maybe wrong of her, but she confided in me. And I saw that she was upset. So I then would go, don't you mess with my mother. So I, even at that height, was like Damien the Omen. Yeah. Like, don't you say that to my mother, I'd kill you. So the war began then.
Yeah.
And but there was a defiance in me, in that I would go, I'm not doing that. I'm not playing that. I'm not doing the Scouts and cutting up the toggle and things like that. There was that.
You still like that?
I'm not as angry as I was, or as rageful. I've learned to understand myself a lot better. I am, but I don't like being told what to do.
Yeah, I get that sense.
Yeah, but I'm very gentle about things, and I'm very open-minded.
Yeah. I'm very thoughtful. I mean, it's not you don't jump to things, it seems. Because you have a reason for
that.
Yeah, that logical conclusion in your mind.
Well, I believe in kindness. I think it's the greatest thing in the world. And I think
it's underrated, Gav.
It really is, and it's something that's disappearing more and more
rapidly.
When we have the me culture, which is almost like a form of hypnotism, being hypnotized by phones and media. And it's really sad, actually.
Worry about yourself. Is being Irish important to you, Gavin?
I think it is, yeah.
Like, given the repression you grew up, we all both grew up, and that, being Irish is something you still value. And obviously, if you've travelled, you get the sense of what Irish is outside Ireland.
And I saw, and you know, I've travelled an awful lot over the last 45 years, and you know, the Virgin Prunes were quite tough and resilient. We were disliked in our own country, and we went to Europe, and we were adored and loved. And, you know, I started then delving into, as I got older, I used to hate anything that was old school Irish or trad or that. But it was in the 80s when I started going, like, I always liked Wilde, and I started really looking into Irish writers, and, you know, the Becketts and Joyces, obviously. I learned very early the best way to read James Joyce is to listen to him, because I think RTE at some stage in the 80s or the 70s, they recorded all of Ulysses and played it on the radio, and it came out as a CD box set. I think it's still available. But Joyce wrote in 3D. He wrote for the sound as well. So when you listen to Joyce, you understand it more. So I started educating myself even about Irish music. Like, I'm a massive fan of Sean O'Riordan and stuff like that. And it's really encouraging to see that that's coming back in a lot of young bands today. But it's not encouraging to see some of the shite where people are suddenly going, the Wolf Tones are great. You go, what on earth is wrong with you? They never were good. They were just a couple of bowsies that were into the Ra. There was nothing about music, really. But there's that sort of weird glorification of a struggle when they weren't living in the country.
Yeah, which is a thing that's kind of pervaded our history as well, you know. And some people don't let it go, and that's what that music is about at times. And having grown up abroad, I struggle to understand it myself.
Yeah. No, I'd say a lot of people, I mean, I love Lancome, and I love, you know, Ye Vagabonds and Lisa O'Neill, and there's loads of new, but I bet you some of the Maz and Daz were Raheads. Yeah. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's, you know, it's a weird thing. It's a weird thing. Yeah. And I am a Republican in my gut. But yeah, I do like Ireland. And I think there's a resilience in Irish people.
Is there a narrative we think we're resilient, or we are resilient?
I think we are, actually. Because, you know, I talk about people that left, that were younger than me, that left in the 90s. And they're still leaving, and they're coming back. And I think there's a resilience in us. You know, we go away. There's a greatness in us. I mean, I live here. If I didn't like it, I wouldn't live here.
But you always lived here, did you?
Yeah. Now, I lived in London for maybe a year and a half in the 80s. I lived in New York for 2 years. Yeah. I lived in Berlin for 9 months. I lived in LA for 9 months, a couple of 9 months. So I've lived in places, but not packed up and gone.
Yeah. And Berlin was post the wall coming down and all that.
Pre the wall.
Pre the wall.
Really?
Yeah, very few people remember that.
Yeah.
It's a very bleak place. When you crossed Checkpoint Charlie, you went to a different place.
No, it was pre the wall coming down. We lived in Berlin for 6 months around 1983. And we'd gone there, and you'd have to go up the corridor.
Yeah.
And you'd be, Jesus, how we looked. And they'd stop us. It was the Russian. And they'd maybe beat the shit out of us, bring us into questioning. But we'd go to, it was a very, very vibrant place.
Yeah.
Everyone was either really old or really young.
Yeah.
And there was a mad liberalism about it.
Yeah, within that
old school, tiny place.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's like London. London, I just adored it in the 70s as a kid. It was the epicenter. And then, like, I grew to dislike it hugely. Post-Thatcher and all of that.
Yeah.
And now I just couldn't. If I didn't go to England, it wouldn't bother me.
Yeah.
It would not bother me. And I say England. That's my mother used to always say that. Where are you going? I said, the UK. Nothing united about that place. And then, where are you going? Britain. Yeah. Nothing great about that place. And she go, oh, you're going to England?
Yeah.
Are you going to Scotland?
Yeah.
She'd be like, whoa. So there's that sort of old school Republican thing that's still in me.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's so complicated, but do I believe in a united Ireland? I think I do, but I think it's going to take a long time.
And some people down this way don't care, we believe, or they think, you don't know.
Oh, I think if there was a referendum, they'd say no. Yeah. Because I think let's get a united Northern Ireland first. Yeah. And there's no way we want people blowing up Dublin again.
Yeah.
We don't want that. But I am optimistic. In my lifetime, I don't know. I think Sinn Féin are a little, it's basically their main agenda. They talk about housing. Their main agenda is a united Ireland.
Yeah. Everybody talks about housing, but their agenda is not housing. If the housing was their agenda, it might be fixed.
Yeah.
A selfish, iconic moment, Gav.
Selfish?
Yeah, wait, a thing you say, I did all right there, or I look back and it gives me strength, or you kind of, in a selfish moment in the dark in your living room, you say, geez, that was a great day, or you dwell on something positive.
Well, something positive, I think.
A selfish moment.
Well, it's a selfish moment. I think when I turned 50, I'm around the same age as Googie and Bono. We grew up.
Derek and Paul, is it?
Yeah, but they don't call them that. They can kill you. I don't mind being, I says, well, I don't mind being called Fanon. It's a lot better than Derek or Paul. Yeah. But
you could have been called still Wavin.
I know. Well, that was after Surridge Pipe, the Wavin. But no, that was my first nickname. But the thing was, Cookie's about 6 months older than me, and we all went to, actually up to Northern Ireland, to some big old castle that was hired out, and about 20 of us, and partners and friends, and we had a great weekend. And then at the end of it, Googie and Bono said, what are you doing for your 50th? Yeah. I says, I don't know, maybe something like this. I'm not fussed. I don't really like attention on me, believe it or not, even though, unless I'm standing on stage. Yeah. And Bono just said, well, I know what you're doing. You're going to be playing Carnegie Hall. I go, really? He says, yeah, you said that once. You'd love to play Carnegie Hall. And you're going to be doing it for a charity. And you and Hal Wilner, who's a great musician, friend of mine, who's director, musician, producer, who's dead now. And, 6 months later, I was playing Carnegie Hall with Lou Reed and Laurie Anderson and Shane McGowan and U2. But I made the thing, I don't want U2 to play as U2. Yeah. They all play separately. And everyone plays my music. There's Courtney Love and Maria McKee and even Joel Gray from Cabaret. It was phenomenal. Cast, Rufus Wainwright, Sinead couldn't make it. But it was just it was a 3-hour show, and people that admired me and liked me and I knew, and people I admired, all doing my music for 3 hours. So
your music ain't bad, I have to say.
Yeah.
That song Angel is great, and I see that song, one of my favorite songs, you get credited as the U2 song, Kings of New York or something.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I think that is one of them. The opening there, I think, is a fabulous song. Of all the songs, there's something about that.
And also the song we wrote for Sinead O'Connor, I like a lot.
Yeah.
Deep in my heart. But I'm a required taste, and I do.
Is that you being defensive, apologetic, or?
No. I actually am a little bit of an outsider. I don't run with the pack.
Yeah.
Like, I don't make... Half the reasons why I would jump into... I'd say, like, 13 years ago, I brought out an album called Catholic. I toured it on and off for 2 years. And I said, oh, no, you're going to disappear for 13. No, I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm working on another album. And I turn around and I meet this guy called Gavin Friday, and he convinced me to work with Shakespeare people. And that took me off for 9 months. Then I turn around. It's like I tend to bump into new ideas. But I quite like educating myself. Like, I went work with the Shakespeare company, and I said, they only pay you 50 quid sterling a week. And I know Jim Sheridan says, do it.
Yeah.
He says, it's like going to college. So, yeah.
But you seem to like testing yourself as well, do you?
Yes.
The boundaries, how far can I get myself?
Yes. And the same with score and classical music. I said, I want to be able to do this without punk rhythms or lyrics. And the only way to do that is jump in and swim.
And your music is self-taught?
Yeah.
You're not classically trained, theoretically trained?
I've worked with... No, I'm not classically trained. Well...
In the sense of music teaching?
Yeah, I mean, I know I've been doing stuff for so long.
Yeah.
And I tend to work with very talented people.
Yeah.
I mean, self-trained is working with the Shakespeare company on and off for 6 months. Being trained, I suppose it is to a degree.
Yeah. But you also speak very well. You speak very distinctly, I notice.
Do you think?
Yeah, I do. I think it's obviously you've done a bit of theatre, or because we all struggle sometimes to get diction, but you speak so clearly, I find.
Yeah, well, I tend to also like do the actor, but not really. When I hear the voice of the radio, you can go deep or low.
Can you?
So, yeah.
You can do some rock and roll voices, can you?
Yeah, well, I tend to try and... I think when I sing, I think I was slightly insecure about my voice when I first... In the Virgin Prunes, I didn't care.
Yeah.
It was just...
The show.
It was primal scream.
Yeah.
It was get me out of here, which is absolutely brilliant, because I believe when you're full of rage or pain and you've no way of getting it out, it ends up bad. That's why people turn to drink or drugs or whatever. I could have been a junkie or fucked up. And
do you ever have issues there? No. How do you, with all the rage and, you obviously have to control it in a way with the Virgin Prunes, the artistic outlets, and no more than the rest of us.
Well, not really. I had a very, I didn't really start drinking till I was in my 30s.
Yeah.
We hadn't got the money
to do
it, first of all. Seriously.
Yeah.
Seriously, you'd have I remember, I hate Guinness, absolutely detested it. Yeah. Trying to drink a pint of it when I was 16 and I threw up.
That was it.
And since I just have that bad memory.
Yeah.
You know, the way I don't like oysters or stuff like that. I'm never touching one. So much so I was at this meeting about Guinness with all the Guinness Diageo people. And they all brought down pints. And I said, take that away from me. I can't stand the smell of it. And they'll just look at me. But I went through hard times, but I went and I did therapy when I was about 39, 40. And I think it should be on the fucking curriculum.
Yeah.
I think therapy is gym for the soul, gym for the spirit. It's understanding everybody has a black dog on its back or its shoulder. Yeah. There's no such thing as a normal family. Everything is slightly dysfunctional. We can't get everything right. But until you understand why you have this hunch on your shoulder or this anger, you have to understand. And that's all therapy is. It's like, why can't I move properly? Because you're overweight, go to the gym.
Yeah.
So why am I thinking dark thoughts?
Yeah.
Or why am I angry? Or why can't I be happy? Work it out. Something happened. Or you're missing something.
And the energy of trying to keep it all together to believe everybody's normal takes a lot of energy as well. I think sometimes you get tired trying to pretend everything's okay.
I think it's incredibly hard, that pretend. And I think what you find probably with most young men or women that are gay is that they go through this pretense thing when they're very young. And Jesus Christ, God help them. Because they just know they'll be bullied or beaten up or whatever. Where just all sexualities, and there should be counselors and therapists in schools teaching young boys and girls, like teaching them how to, even the tools of not being bullied on the phone or anything. But it's complicated. The mad thing is I being so anti the Catholic Church, and still am, but not generalizing, but still am. I believe the Catholic Church should sell off properties and house the people that are I don't think this is just a government's problem. I think they have the money. If you actually look at St. Vincent's de Paul in the 50s, 60s and 70s, most widows or old men would give their property to them. And the biggest landlords are probably the church. Yeah. Now, this is not spoken about. I went on, I hope you don't edit me, I went on a very famous television show, one of the most straight-talking guys in the world, who's a comedian. And I spoke about this, and it wasn't put in.
Oh.
But he didn't edit it. So you, RTE, I
watched that. I didn't realise that.
No, well, you talk for an hour and a half, and they edit it down to 20 minutes. Yeah. Obviously, you can't be there for an hour and a half. Yeah. But I really believe the homeless and the soup kitchens you see in O'Connell Street, why isn't there priests and nuns feeding the junkies and the homeless? Why? Why is it a housewife is doing it off her own bat? Is that not what Jesus Christ would do today? He'd be washing the feet of Ukrainians and bringing them into his house. I'm just putting it out there. Yeah. But at the same time, when I went to therapy, and I went to a few different people, and they're probably in therapy. It's the truth.
Truth be told.
I just didn't really like some of their questions.
Yeah.
And I mean, that bullshit of, here's a piece of paper, go down and write your feelings. Yeah. I said, I've been doing that for 30 years. But it was a place that's now gone, a wonderful place in Clyde Road called Eckhart House. And Eckhart is this German philosopher that was a student of Carl Jung and all that sort of deep philosophy. But it was run by Dominicans and Jesuits. And I remember doing this interview with an 80-year-old woman. And she was dressed in layman's clothes. But I went, are you a nun? I said, well, you're really smart. So it's suddenly like, there's good everywhere. Yeah. And the Jesuits, and I went there for 4 years. Not like 4 years. Yeah. I went once a week for about a couple of months, and then I went once a month, and then I went every 3 months. But I wanted to understand that the worst thing about any hurt or illness or wrongdoing that happens to you is to blame, because the people that did it to you don't even know they did it, or they were in pain, or blah, blah, blah. So I've nothing against any of those bollockses that kicked my head in when I was 13. Yeah. I seriously haven't. They just didn't understand. Yeah. And I've nothing against my father. I had a very beautiful thing happen. My father apologized to me.
Did he?
Before he died, yeah.
Wow, powerful.
Really powerful. Called me in. He had a heart attack. And of course I ran. I just ran when I heard.
And he called you Finran, obviously.
Well, my brother rang me and said, Dad's just taken bad. He's in the matter. He's on a trolley. And when I got there, it was all the family. And he didn't mince his words. And he told me, Dad, he told my mother, go home. And he told my 3 brothers, F off. I only want to see Finan. And I was with him for about 3-4 hours. And Patrick came up and said, look, he's here 4 hours. Does he need to go? No, I just want him. Wow. And he was frightened, I think. But just, it was like a Jim Sheridan movie, Jason. I don't know. It's like, can I hold your hand, son? Yeah. And then, geez, your hand's very big. And I said, it's not as big as yours. Yeah. And then you go, shit, he hasn't held my hand since I was 4. So it's like heavy.
How'd you handle it? Or did you?
Well, he said, I'm really sorry I never understood you.
Yeah.
And I'm really sorry I never went to see you play live. Like, I mean, here's a Republican. And I did the music for In the Name of the Father, which was pretty powerful music and pretty powerful Republican film.
Yeah, where?
And he wouldn't fucking go to the premiere.
Serious?
And we were nominated for Oscars and everything.
Yeah.
And he wouldn't go. And he says, I'm sorry I didn't go to that. And I says, well, it's your own loss. And he says, well, I saw it on VHS when it came out 6 months later. So he was that proud.
Yeah.
Imagine that proud. You wouldn't go and see your son. And I was like 35 when I did that. So
But powerful that at the end he chose
to forgive me.
Yeah.
No, to apologize.
Yeah. He was apologizing for.
And he said, I didn't understand you. And the funny thing is, he had surgery and he had all sorts of things done to his heart. And 2 days later, he was in intensive care. And I went in and I had long hair still then. Yeah. And I had this dramatic coat with fur on it. And I walked in and he was in A&E with all
tubes.
Tubes. And he said, you fucking idiot. It's looking for attention, making a show of me and I'm after having a heart attack. Get out. Yeah. And I went, what the fuck?
Yeah.
And then he got home and a week later, he died. Like, it just didn't work. The bypass and the valves didn't work. But I didn't mind that.
Yeah.
I got the real him.
Yeah.
But he was back looking for attention. It's all about you.
Yeah.
But it was just this, I think a lot of men my age have that war or had. And I envy men and women that have great relationships with their dads.
Yeah, not easy.
No. I had a great relationship with my ma.
Yeah.
I could do no wrong.
Yeah.
Which was, but...
You're in the pound seats there.
Oh, beyond. I remember when my mum died, or my mum, I picked that up off the Protestants, I know. It was my ma. My ma died, they closed the coffin and it was just the three of the brothers were there, me and my two other brothers. And I says, well, you go, you be the last to say goodbye. And two of them turned around and says, no, you were her favourite. And you don't know you were her favourite. But it's a terrible thing. I still, if you travel and you get jet lag and you wake up and you sort of go, where am I?
Yeah.
And I go, I've got to ring Ma. And you actually pick up the phone, you go, well, she's not there. And that can still happen. And it's a real, that's loss.
Yeah. That realization.
That loss. If you go, what's that? Oh, you're in LA and you're jet lagged, and just go, so I've deleted. I used to do it like, I never spoke to Hal in ages, or people that have died. I get rid of their numbers.
I don't delete them.
I have.
That's my secret, my way of dealing with it.
Okay.
You probably do it the right way, but in my case, I'm afraid, superstition, whatever. I just say, hey.
Well, is your mum alive?
Yeah, they're both 94 and a half and 90. My father, 13th of May, touch wood, 93.
Oh my God.
Yeah, so.
Well, my grandfather died at 99.
Wow.
And I remember he said, Jace, I'm giving up the cigarettes. And I said, what age are you? 90. And he gave up smoking at 90.
Yeah.
And I go, you shouldn't have said that to me. Because I still smoke if I have a drink.
Yeah.
You shouldn't have said that.
You shouldn't have said that.
But yeah, I mean, Irish, we sort of go, I think we are, jumping back, the word resilient, I think we are. Because as a race, it's in the DNA. We were battered for 800, 900 years, not just from the Brits, from the Vikings, from everyone. Yeah. And there's a resilience. We could talk about another race that is being battered at the moment, or battered in the past. And there's a resilience there, but resilience sometimes can turn out to be negative.
Yeah.
I don't think the Irish are negative.
Yeah.
I think their stance is very emotional when it comes to Palestine or that.
Yeah.
And it's heartfelt. So I think there's a goodness in there. Like I remember when Geldof, who I think is a great man, did Live Aid, percentage-wise, the Irish gave more than any other country. And I still think we do. We took in percentage-wise of Ukrainian refugees.
Were you there for the day, were you?
No, I didn't go over, no.
Yeah, I was in London, but never went to think didn't think it was a big deal.
No, I watched it on telly.
Telly, yeah.
No, I knew it was a big deal. And
my kids laugh when I say telly, but
Bono ring me up. Yeah, I met Bowie. I says, did you? What's he like?
Yeah.
He's not that tall. Yeah.
I actually thought that himself had lost the plot when he went into the crowd, and turned out to be the epic moment which changed a lot of things. When he sang Bad and went there and just...
they call us breaking the fourth wall.
Yeah, it's amazing. At the time, saying, what the hell? But it's funny, isn't it?
Yeah.
What music do you listen to, Gav? What songs are your favourites? Something that...
Well, I listen to a lot of music.
Yeah.
And I sort of want to know what's going on.
Yeah.
So, and I talked earlier about Irish music and all of that. So I try to keep up. But what I tend to do now is simpler things or more complex things. Is say if it's a Saturday or a day and I'm on my own or I'm just chilling out at home, I'll put on classical music.
Yeah, was Caruso and that was influenced you earlier? Was
it did, yeah.
But I was amazed by that. I can see as we get older, I can understand the beauty of it, but I was never introduced to that early on. But
it was my uncle Paddy, my dad's older brother. He used to play it, and it was this bravado.
Yeah.
And it's sort of like, what's that? And then something sticks in your head. But I love it. There's a piece of music called Mahler's Fifth, M-A-H-L-E, or Mahler's Fifth. And it's one of the most beautiful pieces of music ever. And then there's another piece called Allegre Miserere. And Allegre was the writer. And it's actually very religious. I think it was written for the Pope only to hear.
Yeah.
And Mozart, who was a photographic memory, was brought in and was played it. And thought it was so beautiful, wrote it down and played it for everyone else. So it became public.
Yeah.
So, but Allegre Miserere and Mahler's. And there's something about your head. My head's always busy or racing. As I'm getting older, I don't want to hear words.
Yeah.
And jazz I quite like Miles Davis. And even
but you had a phase playing jazz as well yourself. You did jazz yourself, didn't you, for a period?
Tried it. Yeah. I mean, I think I could see something changing, I think, in me now. In that, like, I'll just go, this is what I'm going to do, and that's it, shut up. But like even books, the older I'm getting, I'm going, do you know what? I'm just going to start reading poems.
Yeah.
And have a poetry book beside me. And sometimes you just read 2 pages and a poem takes ages
to digest.
And then you're walking the dog and you go, oh, is that what that's about?
Yeah.
And it's like less is more. Or sometimes you can OD on information. And I think that's what's wrong with the world now, is that we're not even taking in stuff. It's all coming at us so fast that we need to just slow it down.
Any poetry that you quote, that you travel with?
Well, I mean, I talked about, I discovered Shakespeare in my 40s and, the sonnets are incredible. There's actually a friend of mine, a Professor Owen Devereux, who you should get for this thing. I'll give you his number. And he's just brought out a book of poems. He's a professor now, when I say professor, he's 2 years younger than me.
Yeah.
He's in Limerick University, Owen Devereux, and it's called, I think it's called Garden Leave. And it's quite beautiful. So that's the last one I've read. But I tend to if I like a book, I'll reread it a few times. And I'll even go back to old ones. And there's certain books I like, even though I'm not that religious, I like Ella. I tend to if I improvise, when you're making music, if you're another, you tend to jam and improvise, and it's usually Shakespeare or the Bible you pull from. You know, I mean, the title of track of my album, Ecce Homo, is a biblical reference.
Yeah.
And Fight Fire with Fire is a Shakespearean reference, but they just sort of come in. So,
are you looking back at your life, going on 67 like myself, are you amazed when you look back? Are you surprised, or is taking nothing out of you? Is it not the road you expected to travel, or was it?
I decided to travel it.
Yeah.
I think when I was around 35, 40, because that's when sort of things, my contract with Island Records ended, my marriage ended, and I went to therapy, and I decided I wanted to do music. So it was an accidental road I jumped on that I made a good career of. I'm pretty hard on myself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You strike me as you are.
I'm just really hard.
And if P&T hadn't put that phone box where they did on Cedarwood Road, you think you would have gone a different way? Or is this happenstance that you meet people at a certain point? Which,
I think there was always art in me in some way. I always drew. I was attracted to that. I think something would have happened.
Anyway.
Yeah, I think so. And I think the fact that I discovered punk at the same time that when, I met Bono and them at 74. Yeah. So punk happened 2 years later. I think something would have happened. I would have.
And you're still at it now with a tone list, aren't you?
I am. And that's jazz and punk. That's pretty heavy. But that's with Reno, who I've worked with for years. Yeah. He's a jazz musician and classical musician. I tend to pick jazz and classical people and then punk people. Like my latest lineup is Kate Ellis, who's an amazing cello player from the Crash Ensemble. Worked with her for 20 years, Reno Pion, and then a classical piano player called Kevin. And then these two girls that are like 23 and 24, and they play guitar and plays trumpet, and yeah.
You're in a happy place, aren't you?
I am happy, but I measure happiness. I think if anyone's too happy, they worry me.
Maybe you should go easy on yourself, Gavin.
Maybe. I'm very distressed by the world at the moment. I'm not happy. I was sort of like, there's one time I go away to Greece a lot, and once a year, and I can't wait to go because I never turn the phone on, and I never listen to the radio. Yeah, and they don't care about the rest of the world. It's a tiny little island, and I find the world a little crushing at the moment. It's very worrying. God, I'm worried for the world. I've never seen the world this distraught, and I'm 67. And
not yet, nearly.
Yeah. Another 6 months or 5 months. No, really.
It's distressing.
It's very distressing. And I feel things heavily as a person.
It comes across. But you're naturally optimist?
Yes.
Okay.
A pessimistic optimist. I have to go, look at that shit. That has to get out of the way before we go to that light. Yeah. So I'm a pessimist. I see all the problems, but at the end of the day, so I don't think the world is going to end. I think the world is going to change. Yeah. It has to change. I think, everyone can blame capitalism and this and that. I think human beings are faulty. Human beings are greedy. Human beings are insecure. We look at socialism and communism, and they're all living like gods, and everyone else was like a pauper. Yeah. Look at Putin, and his fucking country are on their knees, and he treats them like shit. Yeah. And he's worse than Trump. Yeah. But I don't understand how people can follow the simplicity of this nationalism that's creeping up more and more.
Frightening, isn't it?
It's really frightening.
Yeah.
Because the whole world is an immigrant. The whole world is made of immigrants. Yeah. The Irish were one of the biggest immigrants.
Yeah.
And how dare you? You know, now I understand the world is in trouble and there's a lot of freeloaders, but you don't just suddenly become racist and sexist and all of these things. And I find that there's communism, there's socialism, there's capitalism. It's almost like there's not enough intellects out there to bring another level into it. We're talking the same arguments for the last 100 and odd years.
Things change.
And I just think, where's the new intellectualism? Where's the new philosophies? Where are our philosophers? Now we don't even fucking read.
Yeah, that's the problem. But you're hopeful. You're hopeful about the future.
I think people, yes, I have to be hopeful. Yeah. I mean, where's journalism? Where's TV going? Everything's going up its arse. Yeah. But it's all, like, I'm not afraid of AI.
Yeah.
I think I worry about it. Not that I worry about it, like, it's here. Google is AI. What would we do without Google? Yeah. But I'm going, hold on. If everyone loses their job because of AI, how is Jeff Bezos and Amazon going to sell anything if no one is working? What are you talking about? Yeah. It's sort of a mad greed. Everyone's rushing towards something. And I think everyone needs to slow down.
Have you slowed down?
A little bit. A little bit.
Gavin Friday, it's been a pleasure talking to you. Thank you for joining us today on Aran Discs.
Thank you so much, Russell.
You're great at protecting your data, but lots of places could still expose you to identity theft.
I thought it was safe.
If that happens, LifeLock gives you a U.S.-based restoration agent who will stick by your side from start to finish. Phone calls, filing documentation, preparing insurance claims. Your agent handles it all. In fact, we're so confident restoration is guaranteed or your money back. Isn't it nice to have someone like that on your side? Save up to 40% your first year at LifeLock.com/Pandora. Terms apply.
Ever walk past a place for rent and wish you could just take a peek inside? Maybe even explore the layout. Envision the natural light streaming through the windows. Or plan where your vinyl record collection would go. At Apartments.com, you can. With tools like their 3D virtual tours, you can see the exact unit you could be living in. Really envision yourself in your new home with Apartments.com, the place to find a place.